call the meeting to order of the special meeting of the Romeo Board of Trustees. Today's date, April 12th, starting at 7:30. If you'll all rise and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk call the roll?
Edwards?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Fowler? Melvin?
Here.
Marcel?
Here.
Toronto? Absent. President Siglo? Absent. You have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Ms. Fowler, I'm supposed to be here.
Zach?
Yeah.
I think was somebody.
He's supposed to be here.
Somebody. Oh, you said it was going to be. Zach?
I didn't say that.
Somebody
No,
said- Oh, you told me.
Yeah, he should be here.
New business, employee healthcare vendors, Ascend Group, Cornerstone, and Advantage Group. And I'll let Mike call them up probably in that order.
Well, it just depends how you want to go about it. You can give everybody their 15 minutes of fame. You can go in the order that is on the agenda. We can do the 3/4, first, second, third scenario. It's just up to you guys, how you guys want to go about it.
This is fine. Let's start with Ascend Group.
Is there 3 proposals, huh?
Oh, I have. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead. Too bad.
We don't have a podium.
Did you get one of each, James? Okay.
I gotcha.
Thank you.
You guys may use the end of that if you guys
Sure.
like.
Good evening.
Hi.
So this is us. We are the second. So my name is Dennis Doley. We actually insure Bruce Township and Washington Township, so very familiar with this building. When we went ahead and we took a look at what you were offering, we identified a couple different things. One, there's a retiree savings that could be had with regard to a product called We Care Network Advantage. So we would be presenting that. Then I looked at it being about a $3,000 savings per month, approximately. We also looked at the oncoming renewal. The oncoming renewal is going to be about a 19% increase. So in our presentation through our tool, we went ahead and looked at that. So the oncoming renewal increase, page 5 or 6. For the $1,750, $3,500 plan. Now when it maps over to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, it's going to map a little differently. The deductibles are going to go down. So deductibles go to $1,350, $2,600. We're really familiar with how this plan works, especially from an HSA standpoint, so we do this all the time with regard to these types of benefits. We also looked at the dental comparison, life insurance comparison, and other items which our analysis is behind that. We were able to save you about a $64.67 per month savings on the Delta Dental piece. We would use a passive PPO product as well. In addition to that, with the life insurance, I don't know what the rates are because we weren't provided that. But the rate that we quoted for our life insurance rate was 29 cents and 2 cents ADD. So 31 cents combined. We are a web-based company. So when we put together your benefits for your employees, they have access to their own personal website. So they can go online, grab forms, grab items off of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. They also have a health tool advisor where they can go ahead and look for consumer-driven pieces. So if they wanted to shop out their prescriptions within a 50, 100-mile radius, they could do that. Print coupons, get emails, things of that nature. So it's all built into the website, along with some other ACA compliance, so Affordable Health Care Act and things of that nature. I know Mike spoke with 2 of our references, being Bruce and Washington. That's about what we have for you. So
How long have you insured those other 2 municipalities?
we've had let's see, Bruce Township, I want to see for about 9 years. Washington, about 8 or 9. We also have about 40 other municipals.
Okay.
When you're looking at the savings and things, how accurate are you with the actually? Did you have all the specifics as far as our people that are under the plan?
Yeah, we're not the agent as of yet, or we're not the agent, so we can't start quoting different option plans and things of that nature to the exact point of what the agent can. So, what I told Mike is, I know you have negotiations coming up. We're very familiar with your negotiator, the person that negotiates the police contract and so forth. So we have them in other municipals. As far as the other numbers go for the dental, the life, things of that nature, those are spot on.
But like you mentioned, the first one you were saving $600 or something a month, or
Yeah, so what I did is I took a look at your Medicare eligibles, and we do a lot of work with Medicare Advantage. So the Medicare Advantage savings that we were able to bring about is anywhere between $2,800 and $3,200 a month. That would be one of the products that I would propose to your Medicare
If you just
65.
said something, I didn't hear what it was.
Excuse me.
No problem. Siri's a little touchy. So
thank you, Siri.
If you just said something, I didn't hear what it was.
You don't have to repeat.
yeah. So we use those products in Washington. We use some other products in Bruce.
But and as far as that savings, the reason I ask is last time we went through this process, we thought we were going to have a pretty good savings, and then that when the rubber hit the road, the way the actuaries came back or whatever, that was gone. So it wasn't accurate, and that was with the existing vendor. So
I see.
who would have the accurate information? So if you're saying $600 and something dollars, is that, how accurate is that? Is that
It's
is it apples
accurate.
to apples?
Well, what it is your post 65 is in your active. In essence, they're being rated based on your active. So what we would do is we extract them out of the active contract and put them into a Medicare Advantage product, which is actually, in my opinion, a little better because it coordinates with Medicare.
Okay. So it's just a
we're-
different strategy.
It's just a different strategy. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
But we're really familiar with that product. Product's a great product. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Mike, you said you talked to the other communities. What's the
I spoke briefly with Bruce. Can't remember if we talked to Richard about it or one of them over there, or maybe it was this employee. Can't recall. Second with Washington Township. Thought they were great. Talked to Dan O'Leary and Kathy Boshears over there, and haven't heard any complaints from any of the employees either. But they don't need to complain to me. So that's it.
All right. So
I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. There's not
Right.
a lot of items in here to really address. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
One other question,
Sure.
as far as time frame, as far as how long does this process take? If we're looking at this and putting that type of thing in there, what's a usual window of a time frame?
So what I would recommend is structuring some sort of meeting with the retirees so they understand it, and then you guys are insurance consultants or agents, so let us come out and talk to them and say, hey, this is what the product looks like, this is what it feels like, and this is what it would do for you. In addition to that, you're probably looking at a 90-day window. Now you want it to somewhat coordinate with your renewal,
Right.
so that's
I
what
don't
the
even
time
know what
crunch
that
is.
actual date is.
First. Well, May 1st is where we kind of are set for a deadline time frame.
Of making a decision of what
Yeah.
we're doing May
Yeah.
1st.
And then, but we're insured until July 1st or June
Right.
30th, 31st of July, or whatever the date is.
Okay, the end of July.
Yeah. So.
All right. Okay.
Any
Anything
other
else?
questions at all?
And you're
Hey,
Dennis?
yeah,
Dennis.
I'm Dennis.
Dennis
I can tell you more about Ascend Group if you'd like to know
Doug Swiss back there.
more about that. I mean, we have 9 employees. We're local.
You've got 8 minutes. If talk a little bit more about the computer.
Web-based items.
Yeah, especially with the use for the employees that you showed me.
Yeah, so what we do is we put all their benefits online. So it's password protected, username, email protected, whatnot. So they go online, they can look at if they needed to make a form change or something like that. They're not going to HR. They actually have all those items in their site, their own personal site. If there's information that you need to distribute, usually we do that through that. What it'll do is it'll queue up a reminder for the employee. So every month they'll get, or every day they'll get a reminder saying, hey, you have something in your email, you gotta check this, they'll read through this and da-da-da. We have some municipals that actually load in like the informational pieces for like body cameras and things like that. They actually load it into the site. And then you assign it to the person and they review it. And it tells you whether or not they reviewed the item. So it's pretty helpful to distribute information. So all that information, plus all the Blue Cross information, claims forms, things of that nature, anything insurance related, they could work directly from the site. Call anybody at our office and say, what do I do with this? How do I do this? They could also take their EOBs. Maybe they had a question, they paid a doctor, paid them a little too much. Once they found out they got the EOB, they swiped their card at the vendor, and they said, hey, I overpaid by $100. They could attach your EOBs into the site, and we could go into their file folder and look at their EOB and access that and call their doctor and help them straighten out their claims. So we have a claims analyst in my office. She does that as well.
What's an EOB?
Explanation of benefits. So a lot of times doctors or people get confused with HSAs because then they say, I have this nifty card, right? And I have this expense at the doctor's office. So they leave the doctor's office and right before they get to hit the door, they swipe their card because they want to pay their bills on time because they want to be timely payers, not late payers. And then they come to find out they get an EOB in the mail or via email. And then they find out that they overpaid by $100 or $200 because it hasn't the Blue Cross and Blue Shield negotiated discounted rate. So instead of them doing that during their time of work, we authorize them through a HIPAA certification form, and then we call the doctor and say, hey, you overcharged them, get their money back, placed back on the card.
Okay. All right.
That it? Thanks, then.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pro Tem, who's up next? Cornerstone.
Busy tonight.
Hello.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us. This is our packet here, and we're going to be looking at the document on the right side, which is a PowerPoint presentation. I promise we're not going to review every slide, but we will use this as a jumping off point. So I'll wait for a second for everyone to get that out. Okay, everyone ready? Okay. And good evening, and thank you again. I am John Vance, and I am the practice leader of Cornerstone Municipal Advisory Group, and this is Kim Koulis, an account director. We're going to go right to page 1, which is a little bit of an introduction of our firm. We've been in business for about 14 years. We work exclusively with public sector clients in Michigan. We have about 37 clients in Michigan, all public sector, the vast majority of which are municipal. We probably have about 32 municipalities, and that's full consulting, meaning everything, medical, drug, dental, vision, life, disability, full consulting clients. Everyone in our firm, from president all the way through assistants, works exclusively on municipality and public sector. The reason that's key is that we live and breathe your problems, your issues, the nuances, because we all know that this is a much more complicated sector and type of healthcare than a private sector case. Frankly, it's just much more intricate. Collective bargaining, pre-Medicare retirees, Medicare retirees, it's a different animal. So that is something that we chose to be our sole focus about 14 years ago. On slide 3, I'm actually going to skip this. It's a little bit about distinguishing services, some areas where we kind of focus, but I want to get past that a little bit and focus a little bit on slide 4. Slide 4 is a high-level snapshot of some of our clients, the logos. A few Macomb County clients. We have the cities of Fraser, Shelby Township, Sterling Heights. We have clients as large as Wayne County, City of Flint, Dearborn, Royal Oak, as small as the Charter Township of East China. We have the city of Bloomfield Hills, some smaller clients. So we kind of are all in that mixture depending on the group.
So we were asked here today to give an overview of your benefit plan and just a synopsis of what your medical program entails is you currently offer your Simply Blue 1750 with an HSA to your actives and your Medicare retirees. You also have coverage for your Medicare retirees, which John is going to talk about in detail in a few minutes with some ideas. But at renewal, as you know, the plan is not being renewed with Blue Cross, so they're forcing you to choose another plan. It's important to know that Blue Cross offers 28 standard medical and prescription drug plans to groups of your size that are fully insured. So those 28 plans are accessible by every consultant, regardless of the size of agency, whether you're large or small. We all have access to the same plans and the same costs for each program. Cornerstone is a platinum agency with Blue Cross Blue Shield, so that differentiates us a little bit from the perspective that we get a higher level of service and attention from Blue Cross. So when there are issues with our clients, we usually get generally a little bit more attention and faster turnaround time from the Blues. We've been asked, well, we provided 2 alternate plan proposals for you today in this information. Certainly we have access to the other 26 plans that Blue Cross offers. And if we got to know you better and we understood what your goals and your strategic plan was, we certainly could quote any variety of those 28 plans, and the results would be the same, those costs, as any of the other agencies that you look at today.
And first of all, pardon me for sitting down, my knee was spasming a little bit. I didn't want to hit the deck. Apologies. On page 6, because what Kim is saying, that since Blue Cross offers, it's important to note that every agent, regardless of size, whether you're the biggest firm in the state or you have 1 employee, we all have access by state law, the same plans at the same prices. So you're really not going to get any different pricing from any of us folks in this room today. And frankly, we all have access to the same plans and programs. So what are some differentiators? And Kim mentioned one with us being a platinum agent where we get higher level of attention and service from Blue Cross. Another one is on page 6. I can't help myself. I'm previously an underwriter, and I look at data without immediately going to the Medicare numbers. And this is an area, as was alluded to you previously, I feel like there's a tremendous opportunity for savings. What I did is I looked at you have 14 Medicare members. These are people that are post 65, have Medicare A and Medicare B. And right now you're paying for their costs. Medicare pays first, the Village then pays second for medical, and then prescription drugs, you pay the full freight. So what I wanted to do was take a look to determine, is there a more efficient platform? There are several Medicare platforms in existence that all have different subsidy opportunities. We looked at one of those opportunities here for your group. We looked at a Medicare supplemental medical plan with a group Part D drug plan. By doing that, now I don't have the benefit of seeing your contracts. I don't know what your retiree contracts say in terms of, do they name a carrier? Do they name a plan? Without that information, I'm going a little blind here, so I understand that this may not be something you could jump on. We have to have a further discussion, maybe with your attorneys or however that dialogue needs to occur. But based on, I looked at plans that would be same or better. So the medical plan and drug plan, same or better on a Medicare program that takes advantage of federal government subsidies. When I did that, I found a national plan. This isn't limited to a network, a local network, national plan, medical and drug, that would save you for your Medicare costs 44% over current costs and 48%. That's real cash. That's not an estimate, that is real cash. Rate to rate, cash to cash. So that is, right now I'm paying X, I'm paying Y tomorrow, cash to cash. There's no estimate there. Now,
Do you know offhand what that dollar amount was?
I sure do. Yep, next page.
Okay.
Yep, we'll get there. One moment.
All right.
The last thing I want to note here is, from speaking with Mike a little bit, is obviously living in the municipal market, we know GASB is a huge concern. Unfunded healthcare liability. We have GASB 75 coming up just around the corner, where whether you know or not, GASB is being overhauled and being essentially replaced 43 and 45 with 75. And that's going to have different criteria for booking your unfunded liability. By the way, net liability on your balance sheet. You can't bury it in a footnote anymore. It's going to create insolvency across the state, frankly. And with that being the case, being efficient on your Medicare is going to be an area where you can have a profound impact on your unfunded GASB liability. So we'll take a look at the cash on page 7. So here we've spreadsheeted the medical and the prescription drugs. The medical, I actually improved your plan. Whether you know this or not, right now your Medicare retiree members pay for office visits a deductible from Medicare of $166, and once the deductible is met, they pay 20% of the cost. based on some modeling we've done in our office, based on some Blue Cross books of business of an average of 11.97 visits per person per year, $80 average office visit cost, we estimate your Medicare retirees are probably on the hook for about $300 a year. This plan we've proposed covers office visits at 100%, meaning they would no longer pay that $300 a year, they're paying zero. So it's an improvement on the medical side, and it's a national network. On the drug side, we actually improved the third tier copay from 80 down to 70. Once again, national, full pharmacy access. And this would reduce your cost from current by $51,000 a year and from the renewal by $63,000 a year. These are real cash savings. And again, if we're talking 48%, I'm going to leave this to your actuaries. We do some unofficial modeling occasionally in our office on GASB. But I can tell you this would have a profound impact on your unfunded GASB liability, which I know is written on Mark's wall, because it's a number he's concerned about in regards to the village and how you manage this going forward. So this is something we wanted to look at a little bit because, frankly, we do have some active plans. We're going to get into those a little bit later. But knowing that we all can give you essentially the same thing, and we don't know you as well, okay? We're kind of on the outside. We were brought in more recently. Not having that information and the insight into what are your goals, what are your healthcare objectives? Are you looking for retention, retraction, savings? Are you pro HSA, HRA, standard? Without all that information, we want to show you a couple plans that made sense. But the reality is, if we're chosen to work with you, which we certainly hope is the case, we would sit down and have a strategy meeting to determine where do you want to be, and that might be one of the plans we'll look at today, and it may not be. But I wanted to show you an additional area where we kind of flex our muscles in retiree healthcare. Page 8 is just a little bit of information where we talk about OPEB. Believe me, Kim knows because she comes to meetings with me. I could talk about this stuff for hours. I promise I will move on quickly.
He likes to
Yep. And slide 9 and 10, I'm just going to kind of pass by quickly. When you can't sleep tonight, I implore you to bring this into your room and read these couple pages. It's where we really just to kind of show our muscles and flex our muscles with retiree healthcare. Slide 9. For example, Blue Cross, Humana, and HAP all brought in the owner of my firm and myself to help them build their Medicare departments, to build their Medicare Advantage products. They brought in our firm to assist them because they recognize us as being experts in the municipal market. In addition, the third bullet, the state of Michigan hired the owner of my company, Mark Manquin, to assist with a retiree lawsuit with the city of Allen Park. So we're definitely recognized both in the industry, by the carriers, and even by the state of Michigan. And we're experts on the court cases. We have great relationships with labor attorneys. We are very aware of the federal and local cases that could have a profound impact on your retiree healthcare liability going forward. Locally, I'm actively involved right now in a mediation on the city of Harper Woods and what that could mean to municipalities and retiree healthcare. So these are things, and down a little lower, a local case, Shelby Township. We are very aware at what's going on with the Public Act 152 lawsuit. How it went through Merck, it went through the appeals court, it's being appealed to the Supreme Court. MML is just filed an amicus brief to support the township. These are all things that we make our clients well aware so they know at any given time what the environment is and they can move forward appropriately. Slide 10 is a high-level overview of some of the things we've done, a snapshot for some of our clients. We have clients on this list that were in extreme financial distress, so I understand this is not for anyone. We have Wayne County and Flint on here, Harper Woods, but we also have groups that had retiree contracts that were very strict and clear. Bloomfield Hills, the Grosse Points. These are our city of Royal Oak, Shelby Township. These are ones where we had to get more creative and make changes that weren't going to get our groups sued because they didn't have the flexibility based on an emergency manager or a consent agenda. They had to make very intelligent decisions that wouldn't get them sued within the frameworks of their programs. And so this is a high-level overview.
So getting back to the active plans, we were able to obtain employee data from Blue Cross. So through our authorization letter process, we were able to collect census data. So we're confident in the numbers that we received as far as the quotes that we have on this page. But as John mentioned, or as I previously mentioned, we did only quote 2 alternatives for today's meeting, and certainly we can provide more alternatives depending on your direction. Alternative 1 is a Simply Blue plan, much like what you have today, but it has much higher deductibles and it introduces the health reimbursement accounts. So that's what we typically call HRA. So that's different from an HSA because a health reimbursement account would be an account that is set up for each member. Money is funneled into those accounts from the employer, and then that money is used by the employees to offset those large deductibles. We projected costs on the next few pages on this particular product based on a conservative estimate that 40%, the employees would utilize 40% of that HRA funding. Now, the remaining funds out of that account, if they're not used by the employees, reverts back to the employer. So it doesn't stay in the employee's hands. It's always an employer, it comes back to the employer at the end of the year. This particular plan would be an 8.4% increase over current. So that's less than what the renewal that Blue Cross is delivering, of course, that's at about 14.5, if you choose that plan.
Now, where there's a variable component to that is when you look at a plan like an HRA, a health reimbursement account, your liability is the full reimbursement. Blue Cross says you have to reimburse up to this for everyone, but you're not going to reimburse that whole amount. So you do have a max liability. What your actual costs are, it's going to be a projection on utilization, and that's blind. So we took a look at what would 100% liability be? Not going to happen, very improbable, but regardless, we wanted to show. What would a 40% be? And more likely, probably a 25%. So we're illustrating a 40% utilization. But if it were 25%, for example, it would be about a 3% increase over current. So just to know that that is a little bit of a moving target on an HRA based on an estimate of utilization.
Alternate 2 is much like the plan you have today. It's a Simply Blue high deductible health plan, just has a larger deductible, but again, it does have an HSA, requires that the employer puts money into an HSA fund for each employee, so each employee would have some funds deposited into their account. And for alternate 2, this would be a projected combined cost of about 6.4% over current rates. So when we look at the next 2 pages, 12 and 13, this is just our high-level overviews of those 2 plans. Alternate plan 1 is the plan with the health reimbursement account. So you'll see it has a much larger deductible. Anything highlighted in yellow is where there's a change from how your plan operates today. However, with this plan would require employer funds be put into the HRA of $3,500 single, $7,000 per family, which would leave a back-end deductible to the employees of about $1,500 or $3,000 if they ever got to reaching that high of a deductible. So the cost would actually be a little bit less, their back-end liability, than what they are incurring today under the PPO plan.
When we look at these plans, we try to determine what does it look like to the employee? What is their liability? Today's liability is a $1,750 deductible. They don't receive any HSA funding because ACA doesn't allow Blue Cross to offer that. Okay, your plans are very strictly monitored by Blue Cross, and those plans are built to conform with ACA. So Blue Cross is telling you what you can and can't fund into a health savings account. They don't make you sign an affidavit anymore, but still they require you to only fund what they tell you, and your current plan says no funding. So their liability today is $1,750. Under this plan, it's a $5,000 deductible, but you're giving them $3,500 up to in a reimbursement, meaning their net deductible is $1,500. So $5,000 looks scary on paper. Their net liability is actually less than it is today.
And alternative 2 is the traditional PPO with HSA, much like you have today, again, increasing the deductible to $2,700, but Blue Cross would require that you put $700 into an HSA for a single, $1,400 into an HSA for a family, leaving a back-end liability for the employees of $2,000 single, $4,000 family. So that would be a little bit of an increase over what they are paying today under their current plan into deductible. But the increase, even with premiums and HSA contributions combined, would be 6.4%. Okay?
So the census data that you got from Blue Cross is accurate. This is what we currently have and being applied to this. Is there anything that's unknown with the retirees as far as the people that have, is there any, is that more of a guess or?
No, so the way this works is that you're more straightforward than, for example, like self-funded plan. You are fully insured. You pay member level rates. You receive rates based on every single, we call it a belly button, right? So an employee, their spouse, their dependent kids, there's a rate for everyone. And that rate is the rate for the year. The only variability you'll have in the cost is if somebody gets married, someone gets divorced, someone has a baby, etc. That's where costs are going to change. So when we have those costs, we're able to model those through the alternative carriers as well. Those are set. Now when I look at that Medicare option, once again, I'm taking rates all cash. So there's no claim component, there's no estimate, it's just cash to cash.
Okay. Now you guys know the difference between HRA and HSA.
No, I-
HSA allows the employee to keep all their
It's
funds.
their health savings account.
HRA, we pull it back if they leave.
Right.
Or if they don't utilize all of the money, that money is employer money, so you don't forfeit it to the employee.
Right.
Right, and they're philosophical approaches. And HSA is a little more of it's a different philosophy where you're theoretically creating more consumerism. People are thinking about their care because they're trying to keep those dollars are theirs. You have no legal right over that money. It's theirs, and they keep it forever. They leave you, it's their money.
Right.
So if they can manage that money effectively by having lower costs through more effective drug usage, fewer ER, whatever it might be, there's more consumerism.
They can be seen more of a benefit for
Yes.
them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you. No.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
And our president is here.
You want to? Advantage Group is next?
Yep.
Next is the Advantage Group. Sorry for my tardiness.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Canuto and Holly Haverty of Advantage Group Benefits. It's been some great information shared so far here this evening. We've had the benefit, thankfully, to represent the village for over 10 years now. Going back in time when we started, we had a very old school traditional product that was first dollar, 100% Community Blue Plan 1. You had no deductible, no co-insurance. You had a $5 copay for prescription drugs. In 2010, we made the recommendation to move forward and make a plan change, and it's part of the negotiation process as well, dealing with the union representatives and the various union factions, to move forward with Flex Blue, and it was an HRA product. It was fully funded. The premium savings alone was about $150,000. It was outstanding. It was a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, moving forward, the cost of that product and the funding of it forced us to take a look in another direction. In 2013, that's where we decided it was best to move forward with the HSA platform that we currently have. An HRA, health reimbursement account, is exactly as has been mentioned. The key there is the funds that go into that account that you're funding are controlled by the municipality or the village. The end result is if an employee leaves, those funds don't leave with the employee. With funding in HSA, if the employee happens to leave, they have control over those dollars, and those dollars migrate forward. If you take a look at the information we've got here, opening the front page, starting out, we're going to basically address two approaches to your renewal this year. Our two other individuals presenting tonight have made reference to carving out the Medicare eligible subscribers to your group and moving forward with that as the approach. In the years past that we've worked with the group, we've brought this up as consideration. It hasn't been something that has been pursued because that was not the direction the village wanted to move. I think it's a creative approach. Unfortunately, what we're focusing on here is looking at the group as it stands currently. So we do have a more intimate knowledge based on what has been provided to us as our marching orders in the past, so we did not address a Medicare supplemental approach. That being said, option number one is going to be looking at a variation of the Simply Blue HSA product. This is the 2700 product. We'll get into details here in a moment, but the end result is your increase this year is 15%. It's not 19, it's not 14.5, it's 15%. Okay? And the end result is this represents the opportunity for each segment of the group to move forward with a 0% rate increase, which is significant. The second option we're going to take a look at that we'll address is a Simply Blue HRA platform. And we're going to be not using the village's funding as was done previously. What we're recommending is a two-card system in which the individual subscriber would provide both cards at the point of service. We're using a higher deductible out-of-pocket maximum plan design to drive the premiums down, and then by using the second card, or gap coverage, it provides for the ability to wrap up to a lower out-of-pocket expense. Couple other things that we'd like to take and make reference to is quite simply by taking the pediatric dental, carving that out of the current Blue Cross Blue Shield platform, and moving that, well, it's already built in with the Delta Dental. That represents some savings. A couple other things that you may want to consider that we've talked about with Mike in our meetings is you may want to maintain the current offering and pass on part or all that increase. And then another suggestion that hasn't been brought up tonight is taking into consideration those that are considering opting out of coverage. If they're going to consider to opt out of coverage, to provide them a greater incentive to do so. Okay, and that translates into dollar savings. All right, so if we flip over to the next page, you see the summary. This takes all the various departments into consideration. And at the very top, you see where it says SB 2700. As was mentioned earlier, we have no control over the rates. Those are provided to any agents, assuming the census information is the same. The rates that everybody provides will be the same. So that being said, if we took a look at where we're migrating to based on being ACA compliant, it represents a 15% increase, and consequently this Simply Blue 2700 option would represent a flat increase. And as you can see towards the bottom of the page, highlighted in green, this is using the Simply Blue HRA product and matching that up with the gap insurance. And the end result is that does represent about a 10% increase over where we're at currently. It does provide for a lower out-of-pocket responsibility.
What page are you on?
That was
I don't see anything highlighted in green
Green right
on
here.
the next page.
That's the
Second page.
second page.
Okay. Again, the Simply Blue HSA 2700. Currently, our out-of-pocket maximum between deductible and co-insurance, $1,750, $3,500 for a couple or family. This would have an out-of-pocket medical exposure of $2,700 for a single, $5,400 for a couple or family. So there is going to be a little bit of a difference insofar as what the subscriber's pocketbook would feel, but the end result is it eliminates that 15% increase. Okay, and then as we mentioned, if you refer to the other option that we're talking about, the HRA 4000, this is a more traditional approach. You have a fixed office visit copay, unlike the HSA of $30 for a single. And the end result is your out-of-pocket medical expense after the gap coverage is limited to $2,350 for a single, $4,700 for a couple or family. So again, there's a slight increase as far as their out-of-pocket exposure is concerned, but the bottom line is it's less than where we're renewing it. So, in addition to that, there's a couple other comments that were made about ancillary services that are being provided. I brought some samples. This is a sample of an employee benefit kit that we're proposing for employees. We also have, and will provide the village at the very back of the book, the last tab. We've partnered with a company called Zywave and are providing the ability to offer a platform, much as was alluded to earlier, where we can do electronic enrollment. Employees have the ability to access all their information. They can go and actually use their smartphone to look up a physician or a facility that's participating. It's been extremely well received with our clients. And then from the HR standpoint, we've got MyWave, which would be very helpful for Mike. But just going through there very briefly, that last tab, we go through and we work side by side and create a very robust platform with regard to how you want this to be presented to employees and the design capabilities. There's a number of reporting benefits that are extremely helpful and user-friendly. And like I say, we've had a lot of success with our groups in implementing this. And then towards the back, there's some information as far as the MyWave component and the things that are available and provided. As far as the Medicare supplement or moving in that direction, again, we did not address that as it was something that has not been on the table in the past. It does provide for savings, and if you would like, we'd be more than happy to provide that information for you as well. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
Right.
I guess I would suggest you might want to present something like that so that we're comparing
Yeah.
apples to apples. You might want to send it to Mike so he can disperse it among us.
Sure.
I guess I'd like to see something like that
Okay.
so that we're, like I say, we're comparing apples to apples.
Well, and we are, because like all three vendors have said they have the same pricing of everything throughout the board. So really what you're doing is picking the group to actually go with.
Right.
The vendor.
And one thing I would ask, as far as, I think both of you were talking about Blue Cross, but United Healthcare and so you have access to those same companies,
Yes.
so.
We all do.
The three vendors that we did speak, each of us, I think, spoke about it, is that it's tough to get an outside vendor out of, am I quote saying this, I'm sorry, I'm using up here. Sorry, you got 5 minutes still.
Oh, well, just,
Or whatever. Is that it's hard to quote with our retirees on there. I think
correct. We
everybody
did,
is in an agreement with
there's a
that.
lot of information. Each tab in there is segmenting each one of the various components of the village's coverage for the various groups. And we did look at every conceivable vendor that's in the marketplace. There were companies that actually declined to quote. Some of the vendors that are in there that you'll see, as Mike alluded to, they did not want to address the retiree segment. They would look at the active, but they wouldn't look at the retirees. So all that information is in there. It's not just Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Care Network. There's United Healthcare, Priority Health. There's a number of companies. So I do appreciate the opportunity to come back with the information regarding the Medicare supplement. I think it's a wonderful idea. Like I say, we've addressed it in the past, and it hasn't come to fruition, but it will provide some additional rate relief.
Okay. Anybody?
Okay. All right. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks
Thanks.
for your time.
So we got some information to review on that. I'll have send over the Medicare supplement information. Did you want to give anybody a 2-minute rebuttal after the fact, or are you guys all right with?
No, they all did a very good job.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Everybody, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Moving on to old business, Myers Sewer water request.
Now, Zach called me to place it on here, and
Zach's
I
not
know
here.
Zach's not here. And really, this request, as everybody knows, should be coming from who?
Washington.
But there's multiple carts that have to go in front of the horse in regards to the request, but you don't want the horse pushing along the cart. They want to know expenses that would be attributed to us hooking up their sewer and water. So we're getting the same kind of scenario as what would be in Armada for their request. We haven't, with numbers that I reviewed and looked at, the big concern was that our amount of water that we might be allocating to them in a certain amount of time. We don't want to go over our peak.
What, sewer?
No, water. We're
Water.
going water
Water.
first. Water, because
Isn't that
if we-
Detroit water?
Detroit water.
Okay.
So if it goes over that peak limit, we get tabbed with a $25,000 bill on top penalty. So that was the first thing we needed to make sure that we were in flux with the amount of water that we can. And it looks like we're good there.
Yeah, and that's an annual, they come to us annually on that, don't they?
But they pick a day, pick a time, they don't know when.
But each year, we agree to what our usage is gonna be and what our peaks are gonna, do they do that annually? 'Cause they-
No, 3 years.
3 years?
I think it's a 3-year
Okay.
contract.
Okay.
But they have an opener in there. Don't get me started. They quote you the rate, and then they encourage the municipalities to save water.
Right.
Makes sense, it's all good, but then the more money you save, then it costs them more to push less water through the pipe. So they raise your rate because you're not using as much
Right.
water. And they've got an opener in there, and I want to say that is periodic. Off the top of my head, I don't know if it's every year, but it's not it's not the same as the renewal date of the contract. So if the contract's 3 years, that comes up every 18 months or every year, but they look at that
Because
periodically.
we'll have an opportunity to speak to them again, as this is gonna be 2 or 3 years out anyway. They're looking at 2019.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know exactly.
All I'm saying is, we can negotiate based on where we're currently at, and if we're closer in that kind of a scenario, we would be able to negotiate based on that additional usage, correct? And we can even negotiate with them on what the consequences would be if they caused us.
My question would be, would a representative from Detroit Water come out and help us, for lack of a better term, in determining that information, knowing that if we were to put that,
I think so. I can't speak for it used to be the Detroit Water Board. It's the Great Lakes Consortium now, I think, that operates it. But they want users, and so I would think that they would be interested in looking at the rates, looking at the consumption, and saying, here's what's likely to happen. I would think they would welcome that, but I don't know that. But it would
For some
make
reason, I
sense.
think we're getting 350,000 gallons a day usage, allowable usage. I could check that, but we have the substantial amount left.
Shouldn't be any problem.
But water shouldn't be a problem, but then there's always that no opener. That's why I have to always collect all the fire runs and different fires throughout the village, because if they flagged us on a peak time, I can then show them the document saying we had a fire and please do not give us a $25,000 fine.
Who submitted this? Who's this "we"? Because
We.
I'd like to find out who, I don't know who typed this. It has no signature, it has
Oh,
no
sorry, that was my.
letterhead, it has no, I don't know who the "we" is. in this.
Lyle
Of-
Myers. Their Meyer contract.
Okay.
Or the-
Is this pulled from like
Did
an
he
email or
submit a
something?
formal
That was all it was. I just didn't, you know how to get.
Right, you just
Okay.
copied the verbiage
The exact
just to convey the
verbiage,
information. This is nothing official. They just give us an idea of what.
Yeah, they
their
gave us
parameters
what
are.
they were needed. Now, how we bill normally is the amount of water we drink, the amount of water that comes out. So we always compare, that's how we bill for our water usage throughout the village.
Detroit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where you enter into that 425 agreement.
Mhm.
You can set a mill rate onto that agreement and then bill them like everybody else. That's kind of how we were kind of looking at with Armada, but instead they did the flat fee with it. Or you could do exactly the same before, but that's where the request from them, Myers would like to know what their costs associated to getting water and sewer would be to it, so.
The little bit that I know about, and I'm not sure, but, Washington's putting in their sewer. I'm not sure that they really want to come all the way up to 32. They might be happy, they want Meyer to come in, I'm sure, and they want that to move ahead. And if we're able to provide sewer and the water for a long-term period, then I think that's beneficial that we look forward to doing this. I think initially when they were talking, we were kind of like an ace in the hole, if you will, that if we were going to promise that we could provide it, but then with the intent that if this other wastewater comes through, then we would have just allowed them to keep moving forward, and then they would have hooked up with Washington and kind of kept us out of there. And if that's the case, I don't really want to go there, but if, I'm thinking
Well, that's
that,
where that interim, we didn't like the verbiage of
That's
it's gonna
exactly
be an
right.
interim agreement. No,
Right.
we're not gonna fix your car and then,
right, we're offered to fix it in case you can't get it fixed someplace else, so you
Yeah.
can move ahead. But I think that might be the case,
Let
and
me
I
interrupt.
think.
Are we pretty much all in agreement on that?
Of what? That we don't want to be a stopgap?
Interim, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if
That's right.
If Washington isn't coming up to 32, then I think there is a good opportunity that we could put together an agreement. And if we do put together something, if even a millage in that, we can share with, Washington can benefit, we can put the whole thing on the table and then see who gets what, because we could be charging that, they can get some of those proceeds, and we can put something together that makes sense for everybody. So I think it can be something, but it probably just a meeting or two will be able to know if that is, and now that you actually have Meyer wanting to come in and take that property rather than the property going up for sale, now there's something tangible on the table, and I
Well,
think
at
we
this
should.
point, from what I understand, they just want some close numbers so they can compare what it's gonna cost for Washington Township, for them to go through Washington Township Water and Sewer, or to hook onto Romeo.
If that's the case, Washington can just nix this whole deal. They can just say, well, you can't have this, and you are gonna, if you want sewer, it's gonna be our sewer. The key is gonna be whether Washington wants to come up to 32, and I don't think that necessarily is their, if they gave us part of that, you know, they might develop still beyond 31, but I don't think they wanna come all the way to 32 right now.
Yeah, but they've not said any definitive plans that I've heard yet at this
No,
point.
but and I've had some just casual kind, not even with O'Leary himself, just, a few of the, just idle conversation, and that might be the case. So I think it's worthwhile for us to meet and see if, the key is if they intend their sewer treatment to go to 32 or not, and if the answer is no, then there's an opportunity for us.
But even if long range they did, we would have a long-term
A
contract.
30-year would be, I
Exactly.
think, what the normal 425 is.
So
30
I
to
would-
50, that's
Right.
And by then, I think there'll be other sewer coming up, I don't know. I've heard 10 years put out there
You and I will
and
be
maybe a
gone,
little more.
So it doesn't.
Yeah. But at least it's
I know I
long-term.
will.
But it's long-term and.
Yes, long-term, I agree. I would still go on with the program if we had that kind of I would be for that.
All right, so,
But what they're looking for is trying to set a mill rate associated with the type of cost that would be associated with it.
and I think that would be with us, the question is, let's sit down with Washington, get that answer, whether they would entertain and not be going to 32. If the answer is yes, they would like to maybe not do that, then we go to B, and we would actually talk about the mill rate with Washington, I would think, because part of that deal would be them getting part of that. So,
No.
yeah, you can share, we would collect the mill, but we can share with the municipalities,
Why would we
the
want to?
taxes. Well, if we wanted 5 and let's say we made it 7 because they wanted 2, I mean, it's just an option. I have no idea, whatever.
Because they're gonna be collecting their own mill rates on that property.
In addition to what we
Well,
charge.
now, I don't know.
Depends on
now-
what the 425 contains.
Right,
So I think it's all.
I did a memo for the planning commission that gives the basic structure of how the 425 works. Maybe that could be in the council's package for
That-
Monday
yeah.
nights.
I think you guys got in the last packet.
We have the narrative, right? Is that what you mean?
The-
That you
Did
presented?
they get the one that I submitted to the planning commission?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I would see if we ask that first question. If they are building a wastewater treatment plant, if their intention is not to go all the way to 32, then I think then.
But if you
Why-
want to
why are we
establish a
asking-
subcommittee to meet
Why are we asking
like we
the
did with
question?
Armada.
We do.
That
We
is
do
what
have-
we want to do.
Well, we do have a sewer request, yeah.
So we don't need to even ask the question. We just present the numbers the way we want them to be.
I like, yeah. I-
But I mean.
We don't give them any options. This is what we're presenting, take it or leave it.
And that's, I think, what kind of Myers is looking at, and then the negotiation can be.
But
But
See, the
it's-
other thing.
let's check to see, because Washington Township has a request from, if they want to try to enter into a 425 agreement for this, it does need to come from them. We don't want to negotiate against ourselves.
But if their intention is to go all the way to 32, then it's a moot point, because we
Then-
can't do this without them. And if they want to have this happen and want it to work with it, it's something that we could work to partner with them in what is an agreement for everybody. It's, make it a win-win. I mean, I think rather than us just shooting out, we can maybe know what we want, but then negotiate with how the whole agreement would work, based on what they want and what they think is reasonable. Because they're gonna look at what they're losing in whatever tax and however that's set up. They're gonna wanna recoup some of that
And they will automatically, But, and again, he has to realize that, it took us, 3 years with Armada to finally put that
I thought it was
thing.
6, but
Was it-
Well, actually, it was actually 15.
Cataract will
It
tell
was
you
actually
20.
15. It was
Right.
actually 15.
Well, we turned down a request back 12 years ago when I was,
It was, yeah, 15.
But we've got to Meyer wants to come up on here, and that's a whole other issue, whether you want Meyer to be here or not, but it's gonna be developed, and
No matter what, it's going to happen.
It's
It's
gonna,
not any of
It's
our
whether Romeo's
jurisdiction.
gonna get any piece of the pie or not.
exactly, that's my feelings.
Progress
Something's
is
gonna be
coming.
there.
I said it 20 years ago, and now it's here. So you're either gonna be part of it or it's gonna swallow you up.
But I would think we should ask the question to Washington, whether we have anybody that.
Well, couldn't we formulate what we want first?
Yeah, I mean, you can ask those questions in Washington, but the problem is you're only gonna entertain one answer from
Well,
them.
Washington definitely wants Meyer to come in. You know that, however it's gonna be. If they are open to not going up to 32, then
Again,
that
we don't
opens the
care about
door.
that.
But we don't care about that,
They'll
right?
sign a
This is
30-year
what we
contract.
want.
They can do whatever, if we.
We want a
if they'll sign
30-year
30-year
contract, here's the rates.
And,
Again, I think you gotta use it as a negotiating point. I don't think you can say, you know, we want $5, I'll just throw a number out there.
Sure.
And then Meyer comes back and goes, $5, that's a steal, what do I sign? Because they really were willing to pay 10. I mean, I don't know anything about this. I would hate to throw out some figures just because we think that's what we want until we really know what do we have
It's a $6 million property.
that we're not collecting anything from. So I get it. Selling any, service to them is a benefit to us. But
but, and I would think we would structure it similar to Armada, wouldn't we?
if you want to tell them what capacity is, that's fine, that we have the flows, that we have, the ability to do that. But I would not assign a price point to it just yet until we figure out
How much we wanna make.
what are they willing to pay? Not what are we willing to take,
Well,
what are they
it
willing to
doesn't work that
pay?
way with them. We present, and they agree or
So
don't.
you're saying we should
They're
answer this before talking to Washington?
No, I don't say that either. I think we make our proposal, give our figures to Washington, it's fine, and then they can go however they want. In other words, they can add double, we don't care what they do as long as we are confident in what we are presenting.
Right.
That's what we want. Then after that, if
If
Washington
Washington wants
says
to add
no, yes,
more?
whatever.
Let's go for it.
So we have to come up with those flow figures
I do got them.
and the cost figures. We know what
It's very
other
minimal.
other
That's where that-
of our businesses pay for Detroit Water, so we've got that as a foundation. And we know what the sewer rates are, so we've got that as a foundation. I think, however much you want to step it up, that, you think I was working yet. You'd step it up accordingly, however much you want to, and we could decide that collectively. So we got a foundation of where we're working from. It's not, throwing it out there like a dartboard.
Yeah,
We
because-
do have that information. But I suggest we do that. And at this point, it's Myers asking, but they should be asking Washington Township, really, not us, in reality.
Right.
And I think, Mike, because of the way that the agreement works, we are having that agreement with Washington Township. You notify Myers, ask them the question and have them ask us. This is not proper what they've done, really. Is that correct?
Right.
Washington Township, if you enter into a 425 with any other municipality, it's between the municipalities. It's not between the private property owner.
And that property's going to Washington Township, so they're gonna want the.
It's already in Washington
They
Township.
want that agreement. Washington does with us, and they come and ask for it, and then we respond with what we wanna charge them. I think that's what Myers has to do. They're going to the wrong party. Can we give them an estimate? I hesitate to do, we could, but I hesitate to do that at this point.
Well, me and James, if you don't mind me pulling Mr. V in there with us, me and him discussed the 425 agreement, especially with what we ended up doing over in the Armada Township side. And I think me and him were more in an agreement in the 425 with the mill rate, because we're always going to be, if there's more build, there's going to be more tax.
For us.
In that type of scenario, instead of just going that straight flat fee that was done with Armada. But, and please don't let me speak on behalf of you, but with that 425 was probably, should have been more of the way we went with that, so. But that's also, they're doing some study work over there at Armada Township right now, on what their feasibility plan is, how much it's gonna cost, where they're gonna hook up, all that type of scenario, so.
And I think if I remember, the 425, and that's an issue with Armada, I think Bruce was gonna Bruce didn't wanna work with that. So. then they were gonna annex the area, and then they were gonna supply it as part of their
Yeah.
Bruce. That's what Bruce
I
was
know,
gonna
I know.
do. So that's why we got to where we got. I mean, there was a reason.
Bruce can do anything they want. Contractually, they couldn't do that.
No, if they took, if,
They can say what they want.
no, if they took Armada as part of their township,
Oh, they'd have to annex it.
that's what they were going to do.
But those people would have been smart just to annex in with us. It would have saved them money. So, yeah,
It was
that's
just
history.
it was a point. So,
So basically, we're saying we want this to come from Washington Township, not from Meyer.
Yes. It has to.
all right. I'll inform them that tomorrow morning.
Have them request Washington and Washington request us.
I think we've said that all along, haven't we?
Yes. Always nice to reiterate, Mr. President.
Moving on. Sir, you have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. You may want to take a 30-second breather. I'm going to throw the projector up if that's okay. And the front folks you may have to move yourself a little bit. At least Mike will, or else I'll blind him.
Don't look directly into the light.
That's right. Don't cross the Ghostbuster streams and don't look at the light. Do you have, as I'm setting this up, the theory of why Meyer is coming direct as opposed to going through the township at all?
What was the question, I'm sorry?
A theory on why Myers decided to come direct instead of go through?
I think they're just trying to get their personal opinion. I don't have any.
Working around?
I think they're just trying to get some
No, I
numbers
don't-
together to see if it's even their bean counters. It's even feasible to
Yeah, I
post
don't
or
think
their-
they were trying to supersede Washington at this point.
Can everybody say, okay, do you want to hit a light, or I can see if I can do one of the lights, or?
All right.
We got Mike Small. There he is.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started. I've met most of you, but not all of you. I'm James Vitrano. I'm sure you've seen my name around and had discussions about me, with me, around me. I wouldn't mind starting with, if there's any questions, please stop me in the middle of wherever I am, and we're a small room here, we can address them. My goal this evening is basically to say, you have entered into a contract with me to provide a certain number of hours for the community. The service that I was to provide isn't really well defined, but I've taken this first part of my hours and tried to do a high-level assessment. I appreciate most of you having the colored sheet that I provided for your last meeting, which is basically hopefully a reference for you going forward, not just the work that I'm doing, but maybe where your contracts stand just generally, so you have that information in one place. But going through those, I found 3 areas that I hope to provide some help to the village over the next few hours, or over the next hours that I have left. Having said that, I'm at your disposal. If you want me to do something else, if Mike finds value in something else and the board agrees, I'm open to any direction. I just don't want to come up to a bunch of hours that I'm sending bills for and everybody says, what did he do and where's the value in what he did? What I've identified is potentially 3 priorities to focus on. And I've got a couple handouts that I'll give when we turn the lights back on from the presentation. In doing my colored spreadsheet, I've identified professional service contracts, labor contracts, and multi-year budget tool, which is probably evident to you guys, maybe even before you brought me in, from the SEMCOG report, but from doing the colored sheet, that's where I think I could spend some hours and help. So far, I've done work on each of these 3 for the village. I've drafted your summary of your service contracts and their status. I've also done an analysis of your accounts payable to see how you're spending your dollars in the community. I reviewed all of your labor contracts, and I've developed a comp or a comparable with other villages for your police contract. And I've developed a multi-budget year tool well, I've developed a flexible Excel-based tool that I'll show you this evening that can be used to develop a multi-year budget tool. So those are the three things that I've focused the time that I've spent so far with the community. I've also answered minor administrative requests, one for the Bruce Township Fire Department agreement that I came right in the middle of. I've connected the village with one of the vendors that was presenting this evening, and I've helped, or I've begun doing some preliminary research to answer a question Mike had on the Brownsfield fund balance. Let's go through the three priorities that I had suggested. The first is this professional service contract. So you currently don't have any service agreements, to my knowledge, with any of your professional service providers. You have an agreement with me, and that is very proper. You've went through the terms for how your contract with me. You've reviewed the insurance that I should have. Your city attorney, I will do that, and you guys can kick me. Your village attorney presented the terms that were more favorable to the village than maybe what was in the agreement that I provided. That is how professional service agreements often come to be. Currently, you don't have them. I don't know of costs and terms that are explicit in a form of contract. Specifically, your auditor, your engineer, your village attorney, and your IT services are areas that you probably, even if there's no cost savings to these things, you want to know what you're getting and what terms and what insurance they're providing and what coverages and under what terms do you get out of the contract. To the right here, and I can provide this in Excel to everyone or however you want it, this is every dollar that the township or the village has paid over a couple years to all of your vendors, sorted by vendors. So I had Mike, I gave some screenshots, Mike's financial staff pulled out the information, and then I kind of brought it together. You spend a lot of money on payroll, a lot of money on Blue Cross Blue Shield. Blue Cross Blue Shield is the top blue one up there. Probably doesn't surprise anyone. Your third biggest expense is your Romeo Fire Department, Bruce Romeo Fire Department contract. And then down a little bit are your three highest professional services. IT services is split up among a couple different vendors. It may make sense to bring them together at some point, but they're further down the list because it's not a single vendor. But you're at about 100, what is that? Right around $100,000 on professional services. So that's a place where I think if you can standardize that vendor selection, not only would you have the contracts to go back to, but you may also find folks that are willing to offer the service at a price that you do or don't like. But at least you get the information. For instance, your healthcare vendors that came in today. With 3 qualified vendors, you found out that there's this retiree health thing that maybe you knew before, but they actually put some numbers to it. The $48,000 quoted by Cornerstone as your savings covers very close to the increase that is being proposed on the actives. Well, your current vendor said, I've tried that before, but hearing it again from another vendor sometimes helps motivate your current vendor, say, am I providing the best service that I can, and how do I keep serving the village in the best way possible? So what would that project look like? I can't come to you and say you're spending too much on your auditor because I don't know what the market for your village is for auditor. I know what the city of Rochester paid for their audit, and I know that it's not too different than what you're paying. And maybe that's just what the cost is at a size of municipality, whether you're 20,000 people or 5,000. I don't know, but until you go out to the market, you won't know. What I would propose we do is you draft a request for proposals, you put it on Mitten. Mitten is a agency that is supported by a bunch of cities, townships, and villages. Everybody uploads their documents to there. Digitally, you get a bunch of RFP responses from everybody. So last time I did an RFP for health insurance and put it on Mitten, I got 18 responses from reputable vendors because that's where they're looking for this. You review the bids, you conduct your interviews just like you did here, either through subcommittee or through Mike, or however you would like that to be done. You negotiate a final agreement. Something else I suggest, and have to work with the village attorney on this, is a lot of community passes ordinances that say every 5 years we're going to go out to bid for our professional services. If you codify it in that way, then there's no question by the vendors of what relationship they're getting into. In this way, you have very long-serving, very well-respected, very good professional service holders right now, and it may be difficult to take this step that I'm suggesting. That's totally understandable, and that's going to be a decision of the board. But if you do make that decision, then you codify it and say, it's no offense to anyone or the service level we're providing, it's just something we have to do every 5 years to make sure that we understand what the market is, everybody's got updated contracts, and there's no question of could we get better or could we not? Well, no, we know. We know what the terms are. We went out to bid it last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and we're going to go out in year 5. That would be one place to spend some time. Labor contracts. All of your labor contracts expire at the same time, you know that, and each contract has generally the same terms. What I did is I went out and I said, who's like Romeo? And there's a calculation that I use, and to the right on this slide is the deviation from Romeo. To the left are the communities that I found when I ran some analysis that came closest. So to the right, the closer the numbers are to 1, the more like they are Romeo. So Dundee, Wolverine Lake, Lake Orion, and Oxford, based on population, taxable value, and your general government expense. Those are the 3 terms that I used to find communities that are like you. Because I can't judge your labor agreements unless I know what comp communities are like. This has got to look at the beautiful blue color there. I'm in jest. This would be a confidential labor negotiation document. But I wanted to show you what I've set up so far, and we'll provide it to Mike and the board. On the left, I've got Romeo Police. It's hard to, maybe I can go
There.
A or B?
Camera 1, camera. So Romeo Police, Oxford Police, Lake Orion Police, Wolverine Lake Police, and underneath I have a note about Dundee's Police. And I have the term of their contract. On the top, I've got hours of work, wages, longevity pay, pension, wage increase upcoming, shift premium, holidays, and it goes on about 12 or 20 more columns. Whatever terms are in the contracts. Underneath, look, you can kind of see the green circle there. I've started to identify, okay, Wolverine Lake, they do something interesting in that circle. And up there under Romeo Police, I've got a circle there. I've started to identify among the comps to say, all right, if Romeo and Mike's going to go into negotiations, what is some basis here? Where are we being more favorable to our employees? Where are we being less favorable to our employees? And where do we want to stand with these other communities? I want to make clear this is not a compensation study. A compensation study would actually look at what are the communities your employees are most likely to leave to go to. That's not what this is. This is a comparison between like communities and what their employees are receiving through contract. Extremely important in police. You guys have had very amicable police negotiations, it's my understanding, in the past, which is phenomenal. But at the end of the day, they have binding arbitration available to them. And the first thing the binding arbitrator is going to do is to ask for this document from both sides. And then they will split the baby in the middle and they will get an average of all that. Well, if you know that's the ultimate end that the state has us locked into, then you might as well start with that and go into each of your contracts understanding where you are with your comparables. So I think you need to do that for every contract. Obviously, you facilitate meetings with the trustees, develop pre-bargaining goals. Because once you have that, you can say, we're really not providing our employees the best benefit. Look at what these other communities are here. Or we're really overselling ourselves and providing a benefit exceptional here. The third piece, multi-budget tool. So you consider an annual budget, you do it each year, you pass it, you project the next 16 to 12 months, depends on when you start working on your budget. That's required by statute. Your software that you have is old. It's called BSNA. It's not ideal, but there's not a lot of packaged software out there that is ideal for a community of your size. Frankly, a community of less than 20,000 people. I've yet to find a package that's flexible enough for those small communities because you want to get to the line item level. most of these packages somehow are designed for, well, if we design it for the biggest, then the smallest surely can use it. Well, you just need Excel, in my opinion, in terms of figuring out how your budgets are rolling. So what we did, or what I did, is I again gave an export to Mike. Mike exported the data through his financial folks, and I recreated your general ledger. So the green is your revenue, the blue is your expense. On top there is your revenue, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Your actual as of the time of the export, and your actual to budget on the far right-hand side. I'm going to try one more time. Go all the way there. Close. Now, under that, so those open up, each of those green and blue cells open up underneath your general revenue, your village council budget, each of your departments, accounting, clerk, treasurer, building, personnel, etc. Each of those departments open up to the line item, the GL number, the far left number, for each item under that. So for village, or over that, for village council, to the general ledger number, we now can see it in Excel. And we can now do anything we want with it. We can project it 1 year, we can project it 5 years based on the 5 prior, we can use inflationary numbers. Whatever we want to do, we have absolutely no limits in what Excel can provide us as far as a tool. This is where you can start to find the trends that will be exclamation points in the future or opportunities today. So I know SEMCOG provided you some really interesting information that said if you cut by X, or if you budget X% in the future, you can reduce your expenses. They did that with projections, not on your numbers. They did that with averages of other communities and averages of your communities, which is fine, but they had a lot of gap fills in there because they weren't dealing with your data this detailed. So I've created this Excel tool.
Now, would this be a boilerplate that would be locked and you just plug in the numbers?
No.
Okay.
So this is plain old Excel.
Right.
So
Mike, do you work with Excel?
Very little.
Okay.
But what it will do is you can lock any cell, you can keep any cell open, you can do whatever you want. But once you have the model set up, it's just dragging and dropping next year's information. It's not complex. I would think that once the model's set up, it would be easy to. I know Mike can pick it up very quickly.
You can lock the cells with some of the formulas that are in there, and then even save a copy if something gets changed.
Absolutely.
Right.
This tool that has been developed, I've used this same tool in 3 other municipalities, and you save it every day as a new file, just in case you messed it up the day before, and you have your locked version. So it's not. It's been a time-tested way for smaller communities to effectively see what's coming.
Just on the one more follow. Do
Please.
we use Excel?
Yeah, Dennis and Jan
do they use Excel?
are in this system, and then the problem with the export was what exactly?
Well, the export worked.
Oh, it did work.
Yeah,
okay.
we had Jan and I went back and forth, and there was one variable.
Jan is a computer wizard.
But you guys use Excel in the office.
Well,
okay.
they may or may not, but this tool really is a manager's tool or the administrator's tool, and really for the trustees to get whatever detail they want, because the BSNA product is linked to actual computers in the office, so you can't drill down very well, and it's not the most friendly program to use.
Because the only thing I'm thinking, this is like I've used Excel for 20 years now, so not that I know how to do this kind of stuff, not as fancy as that, but without that, and I don't even know if we have a copy of current Excel and all of that, then that's a problem we're going to have to be able to.
Well, a lot of the new generation is coming in throughout this month because of Dennis getting the new software update for that stuff.
And there's a new copy of Office and
Excel.
Excel.
I think everything is if you look through all the bullet points that he presented and kind of bored us with for 15 minutes, you'll see all the updated systems that are contributed to that.
Yeah, if you've got Microsoft Excel from 2003, if you're running a Windows machine and it's preloaded with Excel, you're good.
Right.
You don't need the newest version.
Right.
And the exports can be written as pre-script. Jan did really well. What I did for Jan was I screenshotted BSNA because I'm familiar with it and said, do this, this, and this, and then that will create the export I need. And now those links can be made and you can simply import next year's data. Obviously, this thing still needs some formatting and standardization. We can do a model of 1 year to 5 and up to 5 years, up to 10 years. You can go as far as you want. It's really open, but I would not suggest going any further than 5. We can create customized report and personnel costing and train staff. All right, so looking at these 3, and this is one that I'm going to hand out, so we won't get too. I wanted to try and say, okay, what's the benefit to the community to do any of this stuff? Well, your professional service contracts, that 10% includes your IT piece, but if you can save 10%, you could start generating some real savings on these RFPs. Maybe you can't. Maybe, frankly, you go out to the market and it's more expensive. But I still don't think that overrides the value of having clear terms with vendors and confidence that you've done this. The long-term benefits is you create clear understanding with your vendors. And that bid model that I'll draft I'm proposing in the next slide for the audit, you could use it for anything. It'll be drafted as a model where you can take out auditor and you could put in, police car if you want to buy your Nest police car off of Mitten instead of one of the state bids or instead of a local vendor. And that's a piece or healthcare provider. And you just have to put the one page in that says, and here's how we currently have it, and here's what we want from you. But the standard boilerplate of here's how we want things from our vendors so that we can do analysis on it, and they all come to us in the same format. There's a little bit of value to that, or a lot of value. So labor contracts, your short-term benefits, it's totally dependent on your policy directions. But doing that comp, you can become competitive with your peers and confident again in what you're offering your employees. If addressed, I think your long-term, you'll see in the analysis, your long-term defined benefit liabilities, your pension and healthcare liabilities is a place that you may want to focus on during this negotiation. I don't think that's too far afield in terms of revealing closed session stuff, but that's a long-term opportunity when you look at what other communities are doing, and you create a model for future negotiations. You can take the same model. All I did was look at all the contracts and line them up, and you can use that same model in the future. Your multi-year budget tool, I think I've hit that one pretty hard, but I do want to really stress that it's using your data, not some average of a bunch of other communities, which is very effective in terms of getting it done fast, but maybe not accurate. And you can run these different scenarios, whether I do it or someone else really experienced with Excel can do it. Michael learned to do it, Jan will learn to do it, or knows how to do it. You want to say, look, we just want to focus in on our salt purchase. The last contract we got for salt at your table was X. What's that look like 5 years ago? I know Mike has that and Jan has that on their computer at their desktop, but if you can put this out and allow council members to check it out, you can have that data as you get your packet in a very transparent way. And offer it out to the community and post it on your website if you want to. So, where am I today? You contracted 65 hours, you budgeted for 65 hours. After tonight's meeting, I estimate that I have about 40 hours left. So everything that you've seen done before, your colored sheet, the attendance at the meeting, and all of the progress made on those 3 projects, that was about 15 hours of work. I've estimated if we were to do these 3 projects, and this is the other handout I have, and I'll just go through it real quick. On the left-hand side, I've got the professional service contracts, the labor contracts, the multi-year budget tool. Along the top, I have the 3 things that I would say I could do within the hours left. On the far right, I don't want to set up expectations, and not meet them, that's the stuff I don't think I could get done within the 40 hours left. The little numbers, so just take for example the upper left-hand corner. If we decide to do the professional service contract, draft a model professional service RFP for the auditor and post on Mitten, the number 3 next to it, that's about 3 hours. And you can just use that and see what I project each of those components would take me, so that at the end of this, these are the deliverables that I could say, here, hopefully you can use them and you're satisfied with it. The far right-hand corner is a place where I'd like to be, and maybe some of you thought I should be there or thought I could get there, but there's no way that I could do that RFP model and the selection process for all of your service providers. I could do it for one and provide the model that can be then reused for IT, attorney, and engineering. I'm suggesting we start with auditor because I think that one is a place that savings could be generated. But it took me 32 hours to do all of those. It should say 9 hours per instead, or 8 hours per. The labor contracts, I can do the comp sheets for all of your labor groups. I can review those with the trustees and with staff, whoever you'd like me to, but I can't sit in and negotiate the contracts with the bargaining units. Those hours are not available in this contract. And on the multi-year budget tool, we can get the Excel done, we can present the model and train staff, and we can do a 5-year projection, but I'm not going to go beyond and do customized report and detailed budgeting tool, which is a whole spreadsheet that you'd use to project just your wages and benefits, because that is your big expense. But I can't get there. Now, if you say to me tonight or tomorrow or next week, James, thank you very much. We don't like the professional contracts. That's not one we want to pursue. Can you tell us something better you can do at 9 hours? Or labor contracts, or look, we're good with our new software. You go. Or you can say, James, I don't want any of this. We thought you were going to come in and do something else. Here's what that thing is. Go do it. Or we thought you were going to come in here and do something else and you're not doing it. Go buy. I want to provide a service to the village. And these are 3 areas that I think, based on my experience, I can help the village, I can help Mike, and I can help the trustees. And that's all I got. So I'd be happy to take more questions. I'll leave you with this page, and I'll leave you with this page so that you can, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down.
We get a copy of that.
I can send you the whole PowerPoint, but I'm leaving you specifically the printed pages of those 2 for right now that I printed for this evening. Opposite directions, efficient. Any questions that I can?
Did you get 2?
One page.
I think he's got
just
one.
one. Okay. So they'll come around and cross. I'll also provide a memo if you'd like out of tonight's meeting on your healthcare bids, if that's a desire of Mike or the trustees. I think somebody said it, I think it was Mike, he hit the nail on the head. You're just picking a partner right now. That was way too much information in too much binders to be able to say, I understand the dollars and cents of this and who's got the better dollars and cents. So you're going to want to look at those binders and see who's the most creative, who do I want to pick as my partner so we can actually sit down and pick the plan.
Mike, did you get one?
So,
Yeah.
I'm going to do something bad right now.
Oh, man. You break it, you buy it.
Yeah, I know.
Library. Or not library.
It's on video. It's over. I may have no hours left by the time you retest this. Retest that projector. In all seriousness, if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so tonight or at any time. This community's got a lot of great things going for it, and I'd love to help formalize some of the processes to maybe move it in a direction that you are more comfortable with. Questions, thoughts? Go home?
The biggest thing is that we gotta get, before our negotiation starts, kind of figure out our healthcare strategy. That's the most important thing, because that's really what the unions will look at, because their well-being. So that's probably, I think, the biggest thing, that step forward that we have to do collectively here.
Do we have enough to
And
talk into a closed session like we proposed maybe, or do we have enough to at least lay some guidelines out or something?
How about tonight?
Just asking. Yeah,
I got no problem with it. It isn't gonna take that long.
but, yeah, I mean, if we have something to talk, I mean, while James is here, if we wanna pick his brain.
If you want to know where your healthcare plans are with the comps I showed, at least for your police contract, that information's available. At least as a starting point.
That would be great.
You'd want to go to closed session if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and you, don't you mention that, for the camera?
We're now entering back into open session from closed session at
9:37.
9:37.
So I'd like to make a motion to have James proceed with his allocation of remaining hours to take care of the professional service contract portion, drafting the RFPs, as well as the labor contract hours designated on the sheet.
I want the multi-year budget too.
3.
All 3 of these?
Well, we can, but I think that these two, the top two right now, are the most important until we actually get to budget in May.
Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna be
We
tough,
can
because we're
see-
still, nobody in the townships or anybody knows where we're at with the personal property tax.
What is the latest on that?
Same as we were 2 years ago. They don't have an answer.
All right, did you get support on that? Did you, or?
We didn't get support.
I didn't, or she made the
I made the
motion.
motion.
No, let's make it all 3, and he can do it in the priority you suggest. How's that?
Yeah.
And I will continue to report hours as we approach, but I'll
Let's
do
get
it.
them all.
I mean, I think the budget is important, so, okay.
Uh,
I'll include all 3, as he proposed.
And then do it in the order that you suggested. And I'll second that
Professional
motion.
services, labor, and then multi-two budget
Yes.
to approve, James.
And then, what are we gonna do on this? We're gonna talk about this at the next meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna have that as
He wants to
a,
get it done.
I just wanna get rolling with the negotiations as quick as possible. Who's
We
the
have all in
support
favor?
on that?
That was-
Ron?
Real
All in
job.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Somebody got a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Me.
By the-
What?
Well, you started a little later than you wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not tired yet.